How's it going? Today I'm doing another review of some random story that you've probably never heard of. So if you haven't seen these videos before, the basic idea is I'm going to give you a just rating right off the rip, and then I'll go into why I gave it that rating afterwards. So if you want to dip out right after the rating, then go ahead, I guess. Before we get into anything, I mean, you could do the regular old YouTube rigmarole of just, like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. I'd appreciate it. Alright, into the actual review. So what am I looking at today? I need to raise my sister properly. I think on my anime list it might also be called Sistervention. I've also seen, like, I need to raise my sister right. I don't know. I mean, if you type in any one of those, you'll probably get this, so meh. Alright, general rating right off the bat, I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm not saying it's some super deep story or anything, but it was entertaining. I liked it. I wouldn't give it a 9 or a 10 because I think the certain aspects of it are super to me, and they're not really unique. I think just, the main character and her sister, these two characters are kind of like the standouts to me as far as like entertainment value. Everything else outside of them is a little bit alright. But I like these two characters. So, I guess we'll get into the gist. So, the general idea of the story is this is the main character. They were reincarnated. Oh, what a shock. Yes, I'm doing another isekai story because there's a million of them and I read them all because I have nothing better to do with my life. Yeah, she's reincarnated as a villain. Oh, what a shocker. And in this particular story, her sister, the sister of the villain, is the main character of the original story. And our main character really liked this main character in the original story, to the point where, like, they were kind of the light of their life, the hope, the like that one thing keeping them going. Like, oh, this is a very, like, this one series really keeps me going. And I really enjoy reading this one series. It makes me happy every time I have a bad day, right? Everybody has that, right? Like that one series that gives you, like, a little bit of a spirit boost whenever you read it, and you're like, oh man, that was satisfying. And to this character, it's, this girl and her story. So, she gets reincarnated into her favorite story, of course, and the first idea that comes to her mind is, I want to give this person a happy ending and a happy life. Because in the original story, she went through a lot of hardship, and she doesn't want to do the same, so she thinks to herself, well, I'm her sister, I'm going to make the best possible situation for her. So basically what she goes and does is cleans up her act, sorts out everything, and then, goes to take in her sister. And I would say the part that I think makes their little story interesting is this sister really, really admires her, I guess not her original sister, but the new and improved model of her sister. But she also is a little bit dark, I guess, in terms of mentality, and very let's say mature for her age. So it's one of those stories where, she's always acting super kind and everything to this one because she, thinks that her sister thinks of her as, like, an angel, right? So in front of her sister, she's going to be an angel. But to everyone else, she's going to be her real self, which is a little more, let's say dark. a little more conniving, maybe, if you will. And that's the general, the basics of the story. I find it really fun. It again, not really anything deep, and I have seen similar things before, but I think it's pretty fun. I like the interactions between these two. And yeah, it's enjoyable to me. I like seeing, like, what is, the scheme that this one's going to come up with to, deal with people around her while also keeping her sister satisfied and happy. And then, seeing the, like, the, loving sister type. Oh, that's always sweet, right? Oh, that's cute. So I think it's one of those, like, it's one of those stories where you get those moments where you're like, ah, but you also get those moments where you're like, oh man, that's kind of fun. It's like a good mix between the two. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think that's the positive part of the series. I like that. Also, I would say another little positive, I guess, would be, like, the art's pretty good. Not like anything crazy, but you know, I believe this is a manhwa, and it's pretty par for the course with the other manhwa. So I mean, yeah, it's good, like 7 or an 8 in terms of art. Um, now, I, as much as I like the dynamic between these two, and it's really enjoyable, and I think the art is again probably between a 7 and a 9, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how you feel about it. The problem, I would say, is it's the other characters are kind of basic. Like, they have the Archduke type, and it's like, oh, he's cold on the surface, but he actually has his reasons for being cold, and, blah, 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 and he's actually a little sweet. It's kind of like, yeah. It's so basic. Also, like, I'm not going to go into spoilers or anything, but she has abilities that the Archduke finds appealing, and, you've seen that a million times. I would say the only interesting points that I like about this character is his interactions with the king. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's a little bit of a different relationship than you see in other stories where, like, the king has some, hold over them. And I guess, maybe this will change later on, but right now I feel like it's a little different, where he kind of has the, the reins in the relationship, which is kind of fun. So I think the only really interesting part about his character is the interactions with the king. And outside of, those three characters, the only other character that I think is kind of noteworthy would be this girl, who I think you could probably tell by looking. It's the person that, to everyone else seems like the heroine, or the good girl, the one that, like, everyone loves, the flower of society, but she's actually, crooked and evil and blah blah blah, and she's the real villainess, even though the main character in the original story was the actual villainess. She's the real one, whatever. It's and she has every trope under the sun that comes with that: coveting things, being nasty, whatever, right? No, nothing new. I don't think it's done poorly or anything. Like, it has all those, elements, and it does them fine. But without any unique elements, it doesn't stand out to me. She just looks like any other character in that position. So it's like, I can't give you credit for just doing the same thing that everyone else does. So yeah, I mean, those are, like, I would say the main, like, the most prominent characters. The two sisters, the Archduke, and that, the villain of the story, basically. There are other semi-prominent characters, like she has a guard and things like that, but they're kind of... Again, they're just supporting cast. I don't think they're that noteworthy. Again, I would say the strongest aspects of the series would be these two characters and their interactions with each other that are very entertaining. Like the sister, like, not necessarily faking, but getting injuries to, on the surface seem like she's a good person, but she's specifically going out of her way to get them to get other people in trouble with her sister. That's super fun. I like that. Again, I'm not saying anything about this is unique, but I like it, and there's not a ton of it, so I feel like whenever I get something decent with it, I want to read it. And this has it. It has that element of, like, the fake outward appearance of a character to keep another character happy that they truly do love, and that's I don't know, I think that's a fun dynamic. Also, any story when you have, like, siblings that are super friendly with each other is always sweet, right? Whenever you see, like, oh, like, the little sister and the big sister love each other and they hang out all the time, it's like, oh, that's sweet. So I feel like, with them, again, you either get those sweet moments or you get those satisfying, like, fun, scheming moments. So I love their characters, and I think that they really, carry the series. Everything else is really generic, and I think it's just to kind of get to more moments with these two characters that are the ones that actually, people care about. My concern, though, is that the Archduke at the start, I feel like he wasn't as prominent, but he's becoming more prominent. And I feel like the story is going to go more and more generic, and I'm not saying it's not generic right now, but I feel like if it goes any more generic, it's going to definitely start losing points for me. I'm a little concerned with that, but I think for this, I read somewhere in the ballpark of like 34 chapters. And I think what I read was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Like I said, the only concern I really have is if they go further into the whole Archduke stuff, and I feel like he's going to be a very boring character, frankly. With the story that they're setting up, it seems like a much more generic, like, heroine than, like, the, you know, male lead kind of situation. Whereas I like the dynamic between these two characters much more. I think it's more fun, at least. Again, wouldn't really say the story is anything deep, but I think it is entertaining. And I think what a story needs to be is entertaining, so my conclusion, I would say, is about an 8. I think that's pretty fair. With the direction it's going, I have concerns. Like, it's definitely kind of getting closer to a 7 the more I read it, because that Archduke is becoming more and more prominent, and he is not very interesting. He is every other Duke, Archduke, whatever. He's just not that interesting, and I'm concerned that they're going to go into that territory and then just never leave it. But for now, 8 I think is pretty fair. I enjoyed the series. I don't think it's the best series ever or anything, but I think if I'm being super objective, maybe a 7's fair, but if I'm talking just my enjoyment, I would give it an 8. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I kind of laid out most of the reasons you may or may not want to read it, so if you didn't really like those reasons, don't read it. If you did, then you might want to read it. Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, I think this series is about an 8. Solid series. Enjoyed it. If you would, I'd appreciate, you know, liking, commenting, subscribing, blah, blah, blah. If you have another series that you want me to talk about, then, I don't know, link it, and, you know, comment below. I might have already read it. Who knows? I might have already recorded a video on it. Who knows? I record a lot of these ahead of time. But, yeah, I mean, I think that's about it, yeah. I'll see ya.